will challenge to in 2024 as well, which is with, and we know the tools that they're going to be running. We can see Simone's on the field here. Golden Go, Volcarona, Dragonite, Kommo-O as well, Grimmsnarl and Ursaluna. And I love that Kommo-O pick at the moment. Clangorous Soul getting the boosts in favor of taking a little bit of HP damage, but it's also a sound-based move, so it activates Throat Spray. You've got the Overcoat there as well, so you can't get spored by Amoonguss. You can't get redirected by Rage Powder. A really strong Pokemon and a very difficult one to take down if you don't have the tools.
Yeah, and Terra Steel is so nice for getting around. It's very heavy fairy weakness here, being a dragon and fighting type. Fairly classic set on the Golden Go, but it's Terra Grass Volcarona with Giga Drain, so that's going to be boosting up the power of that grass type move if it does go for that terrestrialization option. Multi-Scale, the most common ability right now on Dragonite with Scale Shot. Now these multi-strike moves, really useful in Regulation Set H to break focus sashes, deal a huge amount of damage, and you've got to be careful about Grimmsnarl with the Thunder Wave too.
Thunder Wave is such a good tool for being able to slow your opponent down, but also just introduce that little bit of variation as well. If you can't move, if your opponent can't move for some of the turns that it gets Thunder Wave, then that can really give an advantage. Nikolaj, on the other hand, there it is, that Dondozo Tatsugiri combination there. Tatsugiri with its Commander ability combining with Dondozo if they're on the field at the same time, and this Dondozo is looking like it's one of the more fast and offensive variants of that Pokemon, as opposed to those solo Dozo that we've already seen today, running those a little bit more slower and sort of grindier sets.
Yeah, and it's the curly form of Tatsugiri. That means that it will give Dondozo a boost to its attack stat whenever it uses the move Order Up. So Simone needs to be careful about that. Whenever I see a Dondozo, the first thing I look at is the Terra type. Now this one is going to be Grass. That will make it resist opposed to, you know, as long as you're dealing out the damage that you need, maybe you don't mind that too much. And it's interesting to see that it is Simone running the Assault Vest variant too, seeing how these two will match up into each other. Screens coming out from the Grimmsnarl, boosting the physical and special defense of all Pokemon on the field, and those screens will be around for 8 turns thanks to the Light Clay held item there. So if Nikolaj wants to go for that offense immediately, has to be careful trying to whittle away the damage he needs to through those screens.
One thing, though, that Simone doesn't really have a lot of tools, or has one very important tool for, actually, I'm going to correct myself there, is the Dragonite with its Haze. That's going to make Dondozo so much harder to be able to take in this game. Let's see if it comes. Indeedy, Ursaluna Blood Moon
versus Grimmsnarl and Dragonite. So Grimmsnarl already there to set up those lovely screens, and let's hope that they remain clear for the Dragonite to see through. And that's the Psychic Train being set up by the Indeedee here as well. Now Grimmsnarl would take no damage from that, being a part Dark-type Pokemon, but Dragonite would take a good chunk, but it does have its multi-scale intact.
And you can't even Terra Ghost to like try and avoid some Hyper Voice damage because of Ursaluna's Mind Eye ability here. So it does seem that Nikolaj has got the better end of the lead matchup. Yes, Simone can go for a light screen. Yes, he's able to sort of reduce the damage, but that damage is going to come on thick and fast, especially with that Life Orb on the Ursaluna. And it's really the Dragonite that's going to be doing a lot of the damage in this particular matchup. If Nikolaj is able to dispatch the Dragonite quite early, it does open up the Dondozo Tatsugiri combination if that's what Nikolaj has in the back.
Well, Dragonite for Simone is going to be replaced by Golden Go here. So taking both the normal and Psychic type moves so much better than the Dragonite would have been able to. Already time to get Sparkly for this Ursaluna, going for its Terra Normal. This is a classic Terra type we see on Ursaluna, boosting up the power even further of its normal type moves. Nikolaj just stepping on the gas immediately, trying to get rid of the Grimmsnarl before it can set up another screen. Light screen there, mitigating the damage of special moves.
Well, there is the Expanding Force coming from the Indeedee. Doesn't affect Grimmsnarl, of course, with its Dark typing, but does do a nice little bit of chip damage. But it's a Blood Moon coming out from this Ursaluna, and it's into the Golden Go.
Okay, big call now from that really worked out pretty well for Simone here. Nikolaj really targeting down the Dragonite, breaking the multi-scale, then hoping to follow up with massive damage. But as it is, Golden Go takes those attacks really comfortably.
And yeah, I mean, it's sitting in range definitely of taking an Earth Power and being knocked out. Might be irrespective of if this Golden Go does go for its Terra Water, but naturally you don't really want to go for a Terra Water in front of a Terra Normal Ursaluna, because those Hyper Voices are going to be doing a lot more damage. And of course, Indeedee is still chipping away there. I mean, it's kind of probably content to keep on going for expanding forces, even if it's not going to be going for damage onto the Grimmsnarl, just to whittle down the health of Simone's team. But with that light screen up now, the Grimmsnarl can start to go on the offensive.
Well, Talonflame certainly wants to go on the offensive here. It's Pokemon with really big damage output from its fire and flying type moves. Ursaluna is just going to protect for Talonflame to hopefully get in as safely as it can. Make it rain unboosted by any nasty plots as of yet. Going to be resisted by Talonflame, but crucially break its Gale Wings ability. I say resisted, but that's still really good damage. Solid. So now Gale Wings is broken. It cannot use flying type moves with priority.
Nice adaptation with the Spirit Break going into the Ursaluna, but Nikolaj protecting it very, very well. That would have dropped the special attack on the Ursaluna, so further reducing the damage that it takes, but it's a really nice switch in here for the Talonflame, being able to get up Tailwind this turn, but also still at the sidelines pressure some damage onto the Goldengo, potentially a knockout with a Flare Blitz. Talonflame doesn't need its Gale Wings in this spot to be able to be the fastest Pokemon in the field. It just is the fastest Pokemon in the field. And now Simone's got to make a choice about how to adapt to this particular position. Does the Talonflame just go for a Tailwind, get things set up, and the Ursaluna tries to take a knockout? Or does the Talonflame just go on the offensive, take a knockout, and Ursaluna maybe has the opportunity to switch out or reposition itself for a little bit later on?
Well, Grimmsnarl is going to be keeping the Goldengo safer from the physical moves, especially the flying type moves that could come out from Talonflame. But no, just the Tailwind giving the speed boost over on Nikolaj's side. And it's time for Ursaluna to go a little bit fast now. Earth Power super effective down into Simone's Goldengo. All of that money just melting down into the ground.
And yeah, it could have been a Dragonite switch in there, but Simone opting to just stick on the field and try to get that damage with the Goldengo. It's already launched out and Make It Rain, so it was a little bit weaker. Maybe Simone thinking, well, hang on a second, if my Goldengo goes down this turn, I get an opportunity to get something that is going to do a little bit more damage in that Ursaluna Blood Moon. And yeah, okay, it's not Life Orb, it's not the Terra Normal set that we see on the other side of the board, but it is still got that Blood Moon and the ability to put a lot of damage onto Nikolaj's side of the field. There's no light screen over there, there's no way to reduce that damage further, and Ursaluna's such a bulky Pokemon. It's able to dish out a lot of damage, but also take a lot of hits as well.
Well, especially holding the Assault Vest, it's not a Pokemon so known for its special defensive capabilities, so Simone does have the edge in that regard. Ursaluna over on Nikolaj's side, actually just going to protect here. Simone, of course, still has that Terastallization remaining. Flare Blitz connecting down into the Ursaluna here. A little bit of recoil to boot onto the Talonflame, and now Hyper Voice will connect down into Nikolaj's own Talonflame. We know that it's not as powerful as Nikolaj's holding the Life Orb, but easily enough on the fairly frail Firebird.
Good try, Talonflame. You did your best. You got a little bit of damage on the board, but I think most importantly in this spot, we've confirmed now that Dondozo Tatsugiri isn't in the back for Nikolaj.
Yeah.
And so that's not going to be a threat that Simone has to be worried about. And equally, getting the Talonflame gone from the field when you have Light Screen and Reflect on the board, it's very easy to get through the next couple of turns of Tailwind, and then the speed priorities do shift back in probably Simone's favor overall. I mean, that indeed is going to be faster than quite a lot of the Pokemon that Simone has back because it's carrying the Focus Sash, so it's going to be trained to be speedy. But if you can get to an end game where there's Grimmsnarl against the Indeedee, well, it's not going to be able to do the damage that it needs to, and I think that's something that Simone is going to be thinking about, how they can maneuver themselves into a position to take advantage of. That was a very long sentence, but take advantage of.
Maneuvering, speaking of that, Sneasler careering now onto the field here, and with the Unburden ability, the Psychic Seed consumed, boosting its special defense, but thanks to Unburden, also giving it a boost to its speed as well. So Sneasler now very, very speedy and just a little bit bulkier, and that is crucial for this Pokemon that really is pretty frail. Threatening down super effective damage onto the Grimmsnarl here through the screens, and indeed the Ursaluna too. And it's now time for Simone, in the thread of that, to go for that Terastallization. Responding with his own Ursaluna right now, but it's the Terra Poison. Really interesting choice of Terra on this Ursaluna. That means it's going to resist fighting type moves now instead of taking super effective damage. It can also no longer be poisoned by Dire Claw.
but it can be earth-powered now for super effective damage. You can see there that the close combat really didn't do too much. Poison touch also wouldn't be effective in that scenario as well, because it's now a poison type. No earth power, just a blood moon, but the blood moon's enough.
The blood moon is enough, despite Simone's Ursaluna holding the assault vest there. So using the terrestrialization just for the one turn that the Ursaluna was around.
And yeah, not getting any value out of that whatsoever there. Just seeing how powerful the Life Orb and Terra Normal combination is. Spirit Break does go into the Ursaluna, but with 3 Pokemon still on the field, that Ursaluna can get switched back out again and reset its stats. So a really good turn for Nikolaj. I think Simone was expecting to be able to have the Ursaluna just get through that turn and be able to just put a little bit of damage either onto the Ursaluna, maybe try to go for a Blood Moon into that slot to knock it out, or just get some damage onto the Sneasler. Either one would have been a great prize to be able to have, but Nikolaj just said, no, I've got a Life Orb, I've got Terra Normal, that's it.
Yeah, and the damage was, even through the screens, enough to claim here. At least Simone's Dragonite has its full health intact, its multi-scale is there, so it will take the first move that connects into it a little bit better than it would have done otherwise. And Dragonite supported by a Grimmsnarl. These are not the worst 2 Pokemon you'd want in this endgame scenario. So Simone, you know, back against the wall a little bit, but not too much, because Grimmsnarl can offer those prankster Thunder Waves to try and disrupt over on Nikolaj's side of the field.
Yeah, that speed control is massive now that the Indeedee is off the board. It could have come in this turn, but not even those Pokemon you don't really want to be switching out in this turn, and it is indeed the Thunder Wave that does land and connect onto the Blood Moon, slowing it down. We'll see if it gets to attack this turn with a Hyper Voice. Yeah,
Hyper Voice now spread damage into Dragonite and Grimmsnarl. Dragonite won't be taking those Hyper Voices any better than that on the successive turns, because the multi-scale is now broken. Now, Scale Shot as well is a move that boosts the speed of the Pokemon after it's used, but drops the defense. So Dragonite would slowly but surely get faster than the Sneasler even on the field. But, of course, then you're softening yourself up as well for future physical attacks coming out.
I think all eyes are now onto this Dragonite as to whether it can knock out Sneasler and Ursaluna, because the Indeedee in the back doesn't have access to any moves other than Expanding Force that do damage. And you've got to be thinking, if you're Simone, but how do I protect my Grimmsnarl? How do I make sure that it doesn't go down in the next couple of turns? You've got a good thing going on where Tailwind is no longer on the field. That means the Thunder Waves are really doing a lot of work there. It's coming out again into the Sneasler there, but is Scale Shot enough to pick up the KO?
Well, Sneasler is paralyzed here, but it's going to be able to hit through that with the Dark Claw. Do we have a status condition? We do. It's the Poison activating on Dragonite, probably the one that you prefer to see in this scenario if you're going to get one at all. Scale Shot, I mean, just look at that damage. 3 is going to be enough for Sneasler, so Dragonite can keep more of its scales intact, and it's going to now have a speed boost too, and with Sneasler removed, be an incredibly speedy threat on the field. Had Indeedee switched in there, it would have protected the Sneasler from the Thunder Wave, thanks to the Psychic terrain blocking priority moves.
I'm wondering if there's enough power in Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break to be able to knock out this Ursaluna after a tick of Life Orb damage as well. Yeah, there we go. The Hyper Voice not quite getting there, even with a Terra Normal. Those screens have been so impactful all the way through the game. Now this Dragonite has got a speed boost. It will likely be outspeeding this Indeedee that's coming in here, so doesn't have to rely on the extreme speed to be able to do damage this turn. But there is the opportunity for Nikolaj to just go for one of those cheeky double protects if it goes through the paralysis.
Yeah, Protect is a move that gets less likely to work the more times it is used in succession here. So really interesting endgame we've got ourselves here. Dragonite's, of course, on a timer, thanks to the poison damage that it's racking up and up, but hoping to get a good amount of damage in from its Scale Shot. Now it's speedier as well.
A question is, where do you target in this slot? I think you target into the Ursaluna if you're Simone. Try to knock the Pokemon out that isn't as likely to go for a Protect. You want that Indeedee in the end game, and its Protecting is going to be in the end game one way or the other, but Ursaluna does indeed get its Protect going.
Yeah, so this is going to stall out a tick of poison damage onto the Dragonite at the end of this turn. Gives Nikolaj some information as to what Simone was thinking in that prior one and how it might go. But of course, on the successive turn, Simone now has the luxury of knowing that neither of these Pokemon are likely to Protect, given it's more likely to fail at the more times you use it in succession. And with just 5 HP remaining, yes, that Dragonite, unfortunately, is going to be felled to the poison.
I'm wondering here, I can't actually think that we've seen if we have seen it, I haven't noticed the interaction. Oh yeah, the Ursaluna is paralyzed. Right, so, Trick Room. That's the only thing that this Indeedee can go for that would be able to give Nikolaj a little bit more of a window into this game. If the Spirit Break doesn't get the KO onto this Ursaluna, and or the Blood Moon doesn't pick up the knockout this turn as well, it's going to be a really difficult position. There's the double protect coming out from the Ursaluna.
Oh, wow, double protect. So Nikolaj did indeed go for it. And now, so Indeedee is going to be able to set up this Trick Room here, if that is the move that was locked into, and it certainly was. So it gives Ursaluna a little bit of an opportunity to get back into this for Nikolaj, because as you say, Ben, yes, that Grimmsnarl completely immune to damage coming out from Indeedee.
And whether or not the Ursaluna will be able to move this turn, and now with the light screen gone, and with the helping hand coming out, this will be the deciding turn here. Blood Moon coming out from the Ursaluna, and yeah, I think safe to say that's going to pick up the knockout on the Grimmsnarl.
Certainly will. Wow, that really could have gone either way, couldn't it? But yes, Nikolaj getting that double protect off, absolutely massive. And sometimes, well, you certainly got to play to your outs and to see the talent that they will display in this second game. Are we going to have a switch up? Well, Talonflame, Ursaluna hitting the field for Nikolaj, and Grimmsnarl and Dragonite coming out for Simone.
Dragonite respecting that Dondozo pairing, but we're seeing here the fast and offensive Tailwind and Ursaluna with the Life Orb coming onto the field first. And I really like that from Nikolaj. It's like, well, this worked for me after game 2, but I had to bring the Talonflame into a Make It Rain to be able to get in that spot. Why don't I just do it turn 1 and really get myself going while Simone has to sort of spend time getting the light screen up, spend time trying to Thunder Wave things and Spirit Break things, etc. I can just put some damage on the board early and really try to carry that through all the way through the mid-game and the end game.
Well, we're currently in the early game still, and Dragonite is going to swoop off the field right now. Simone bringing in his own Ursaluna instead. This is the Ursaluna holding the Assault Vest, more specially bulky. Already time to terrestrialize in this game 2 between Simone and Nikolaj trainers. Once more, going to be the Ursaluna for Nikolaj, going for his Terra Normal. It worked so well in that first game. Why not go for it again? You do have the Grimmsnarl, though, that's able to mitigate the damage with those screens.
And light screen coming out from Grimmsnarl, definitely the wise choice against a physical attacker or a special attacker. I think the special attacker is the one that's going to be doing more. Will-O-Wisp coming out from the Talonflame, no need to increase the speed. Let's just make sure that Dragonite, or try to make sure that Dragonite isn't doing as much damage. And a follow-up with a Hyper Voice from Ursaluna. Oh. Look at that, critical hit on the Grimmsnarl, that's massive.
Critical hit, that's going to hit right through the light screen there, so ignoring the bolstering to defense that move can provide. So Grimmsnarl not going to be around for too much longer in this game, and down to Simone to decide whether to get up another screen that reflects in the face of the physical attacking Talonflame. It's not going to be able, probably, to dish out as many Thunder Waves as it did in the previous game. That critical hit could be huge.
And the question is now is whether or not the Ursaluna on Nikolaj's side of the field can maybe take an attack from Blood Moon Ursaluna on Simone's side of the field. If there's a Tailwind going up from Nikolaj, well, it can be countered by the Thunder Wave on Grimmsnarl because it's also priority attack. So you can't protect yourself while setting up the Tailwind, and it means that your Ursaluna on Nikolaj's side of the field is going to potentially have to take an attack.
Grimmsnarl going to dodge the dual wing beat there, so it is going to be sticking around for another turn. But then Ursaluna is going to dodge the Thunder Wave there. So Blood Moon is able to go off from this Ursaluna. The RNG balances itself out, trainers, as Blood Moon now connects down into Simone's Ursaluna there. Enough for the knockout here, and Nikolaj taking a really early advantage.
Well, I mean, yeah, Nikolaj played that really, really well, still having the Gale Wings intact. A priority dual wing beat after the critical hit on the Grimmsnarl does take it in range of the priority attack, which blocks the priority attack, and you've got to be confident there, if you're Nikolaj, that your Ursaluna is trained to be a little bit speedier. You can kind of see it, right? The Ursaluna wants to be in Tailwind. That's the way that Nikolaj is playing this particular composition. So, yeah, it kind of makes sense. And, yeah, the dual wing beat missing does give the Grimmsnarl the opportunity to go for it, but didn't come through, unfortunately, for Simone. So, but I do want to give props to how Nikolaj played that. It was definitely the right move to pick in that scenario.
dual wing beat, and with Gale Wings, you're going to be moving first with your flying type moves as long as you're at full HP. Thunderwave paralyzing this Talonflame right now. Still at full HP though. Will it be able to act on it this coming turn? Well, Scale Shot, is that going to be another miss? It is onto Nikolaj's Ursaluna here. These Pokemon need to get their glasses on as Hyper Voice boosted by the Terra Normal and the Life Orb. Grimmstyle, of course, going to go down to that. Dragonite now has its multi-scale broken as well. So we've got two Pokemon facing each other from either side of the field, both of which have abilities that rely on full HP. Will-O-Wisp connecting into the Dragonite. Simone is not having a brilliant day at the office right now.
Not what you want to see in a game 2 when you haven't been able to convert game 1. Yeah, that's crippling, I would say, for Simone, just not being able to get that damage out onto the field. Gholdengo's going to have to do a lot of work in this scenario, but there is the opportunity for that Talonflame to go for a Tailwind if it doesn't get targeted down by the Gholdengo. But it's really difficult with the Gholdengo to target down the Talonflame. It's paralyzed, maybe you can pick up the knockout, but you've got to do that in front of the Terra Normal Ursaluna. Yeah. And that's not the easiest thing to do, just hard commit to that Ursaluna that is going on the defensive, going for the Protect, while the Talonflame maybe tries to set up a Tailwind. Well, yeah, really difficult to prioritize the thing that doesn't do damage over the thing that does.
Yeah, ultimately it is a game of claiming knockouts, but Gholdengo is not going to heed that advice one bit. It is just going to go for the Protect here. And Talonflame does get that full paralysis. Okay. Potentially a little bit of an opening here for Simone. Despite the burned Dragonite, you can see the dividends that burn pays. Scale Shot not doing much damage at all into the Ursaluna. Is going to reduce its defense and boost its speed at the end of this move.
Which, you know, it does give it the opportunity to maybe outspeed Talonflame depending on how this Dragonite has been trained. But Ursaluna's going to be able to get a big attack off. Going to ping off Gholdengo's Protect right here and not do any damage. So Simone is getting an opportunity to really come back into this game. I think that Scale Shot was the key, but the Talonflame still has full HP. It still has its Gale Wings intact. If it's able to break through that paralysis, it is a guaranteed Tailwind.
That could be a guaranteed Tailwind and potentially guaranteed super effective damage onto the Gholdengo over on Simone's side of the field. Taking his time to determine what to lock into here. Still got the Terrestrialization option available as well, so could Terrestrialize that Gholdengo away from its Fire-type weakness.
And that would be pretty nice, especially in terms of being able to take away the ground-type weakness from the Ursaluna as well. But sometimes you've just got to stand in the face of it and think, well, my opponent's probably going to go for a normal-type move, but not this time. It is the Earth Power, but Light Screen is enough to make the Gholdengo hang on.
Yeah, with 3 HP, no less. And the Talonflame looks like even with a 5 hit, is going to be able to hang on through the Scale Shot thanks to the burn onto the Dragonite here. So Gholdengo is going to have one last hurrah here, able to get off one attack on that 3 HP. But then the next turn, surely it is going down, unless it's not targeted into, of course. But there comes that another speed boost onto the Dragonite. Make it rain here. Not going to be enough to claim the knockout onto Talonflame.
But is enough to pick up the knockout on the Ursaluna. That is a big piece of the puzzle, down and out. But because Nikolaj was able to get the Tailwind up, it's unlikely that these boosts to speed that the Dragonite has been able to accrue over the last couple of Scale Shots aren't going to make as much of a difference as Simone would like. If the Indeedee is in the back, that stops the Dragonite going for an extreme speed into that slot. And Expanding Force is probably enough to pick up the Gholdengo, even with another couple of ticks of Leftovers recovery. We've got 2 more turns of Tailwinds left on Nikolaj's side of the field to take advantage of, partly because the paralysis came out from the Talonflame when it tried to set it up the first time round, and then it was kind of delayed. So now we're in a situation where Nikolaj has a couple or one more turn of Tailwind than maybe he would have otherwise, and that actually could be the difference in this scenario as to whether Simone has an opportunity to get through Tailwind and make his way back into this game. It is looking like Nikolaj is going to make it all the way here.
Yeah, when paralysis on your opponent actually benefits them instead of you. Well, this Gholdengo hanging on by a thread right now. It doesn't have too much spare change, but is it going to be enough to deal out some kind of damage in this game? Well, with the Tailwind up on Nikolaj's side of the field, pretty unlikely, and so Gholdengo does indeed keep itself safe.
and yeah, stopping the expanding force from picking it up, just going for every out that it has, and getting that leftovers recovery on the Golden Go. The expanding force, not enough to pick up the KO on the Dragonite. This is actually pretty big because the scale shot is going to put it so it is going to be faster than the Indeedee. If the Talonflame here isn't able to move because of the paralysis, Dragonite looks like it's got enough health left over to be able to take another turn, or another few turns, in fact, and the scale shot is doing pretty respectable damage. There it is.
Okay, Talonflame fully paralyzed there.
I think this is the opening that Simone needs.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I mean, Dragonite now very speedy indeed, can snipe off one of these Pokemon before it gets to move. And okay, well, this is a lesson in, and we were saying a masterclass between these two titans of the scene in playing to your outs. The Dragonite's on a timer here, but seems to have been able to hang around on the field for just enough time to try and claw this back for Simone.
If the Dragonite is able to knock out the Indeedee this turn, if the Talonflame isn't able to act and go for a dual wing beat, and it's able to connect, of course, onto the Dragonite, I think this probably locks it up for Nikolaj. But if the Talonflame isn't able to move yet again, and this is where the Strength of Thunder Wave really does come in. Now, most of the time you're using it for the speed control, but when it doesn't quite go your way, you're also using it for the chance of a little bit of extra in your favor.
And a double protect coming out from Simone's Golden Go to boot. So playing Nikolaj had his own game with the Ursaluna in the previous game there. So all of a sudden the tables have switched. The Indeedee is off the field, and it's now Simone. Both Pokemon on very low HP indeed, but potentially just enough here. As the Talonflame can go for its Flare Blitz, and it is enough to pick up the knockout onto the Dragonite.
Wow, okay. Wow. Yeah, that was the thing that Nikolaj was needed. If I was Nikolaj right now, my heart would be in my mouth, waiting to see if that Talonflame was able to act. Of course, there is one Pokemon left in the back for Nikolaj. We'll have to see now. It is the Sneasler, and let's just double check what this Sneasler has. Yes, it does have the Psychic Seed, it does have Unburden, and it does have Throat Chop. If this Sneasler didn't have Throat Chop, it wouldn't be able to target down the Golden Go this turn. One more Protect or another Paralysis would have been enough to get through Tailwind, and then you can just make it rain and Shadow Ball all you like. But here it is, Nikolaj making the choice to have Throat Chop, and he is the winner of round 4.
Well, who knew? Stunfisk riding a Stunfisk.